Most brands don't need to do more. Most brands need to do less, better. This video is going to be a little different than the videos I usually post, and the main reason for that is because I just experienced this with a client. Basically, what happened is they called me up and they're like, hey, you know what? Like, our marketing guy, he's saying something's going on with Facebook. He's saying, this is happening, or people are waiting for their tax returns. This thing is happening. Each month, there was a different excuse, a different reason why things couldn't work. At the end of the day, there's always going to be a reason why things can't work. What we need to do as marketers or as brand owners is to find a reason why they can work or why they need to work. Now, the interesting piece about this story is that this client reached out, their marketing efforts were kind of faltering a little bit. They had a little bit of a pullback for 1 month. They had another little bit of a pullback for another month. And what they started to do was actually pull budget from where things were working previously. And to give you some reference, they didn't drop from, $100,000 a month to $50,000 a month. They dropped from $100,000 a month to $92,000 a month, and then from 92 to 86 or 85. These are examples, but the point is they didn't have a huge cataclysmic drop. They had a small drop, but then what happened is it was exacerbated by the fact that they started pulling back budget. They're like, ooh, things aren't doing quite as well. We need to pull back budget right now. And then they pull back budget more, and then they pull back budget more. And before you know it, that $100,000 is now $10,000, is now $20,000, is now $30,000. It's a significant amount lower. And the main reason for that isn't because things just broke. It's because in business, you'll see cycles. You'll have ups and you'll have downs, and no business growth is just completely straight up trajectory, right? If you look at, and you'll see a lot of diagrams, memes, etc., where you see a business's kind of ebb and flow, and you see that slow kind of like it's a roller coaster ride, right? You have like your peaks and you have your valleys, and at the peaks you're like, I'm top of the world, and then at the valleys you're like, oof, man, can I do this thing, right? And the key is, and the big differentiator of the businesses and the brands that we see succeed the most, and the businesses and the brands that just don't make it, is what happens in those valleys. So what happens when you get to that valley? Do you crash and burn and crumble and say, screw this, I don't know what I'm doing, or our marketing isn't working, or this isn't working, or that isn't working? Or do you come and you find a solution? You figure out, hey, you know what? This is the course of action we need to take. And this is just a temporary thing. We've been growing month over month for the last 12 months. It's normal to have a little bit of a plateau or a little bit of a pullback. Looking at other things and other factors outside of your control too. This client, for example, it's very seasonal. So we started kind of getting out of their peak season. And what happened is people just aren't buying quite as much. Now, going back to those excuses, I think you can negate that quite a bit. It's not like we're selling, Christmas ornaments or something like that, where no one's going to buy it in January, February, March, April, May, and then you got some keeners who start buying them in the summer. But you are selling things that are, and I'm trying not to name any names or divulge anything, but it's a product that is typically more cyclical. So anyways, getting back to the point, the peaks and the valleys are where the true business owners emerge, and that's where things really get to that next level. Typically what you see is you hit this valley and then you push and push and push, and then you hit that next peak. And right after that first big valley is where you hit your next highest peak, and your highest highs are now higher, right? You're just raising the bar and you're raising your standards. Now, what we see oftentimes is, especially with brands who are a little bit earlier on, and honestly, even some of the more established brands, is when something like this happens, when your brand goes from $100,000 a month to $80,000, from $500,000 a month to $400,000, from $1 million a month to $900,000 a month or lower, right? A lot of brands, what they'll end up doing is saying, okay, this isn't working, and they'll scrap a certain thing, or they'll reduce their budget like crazy. And then what happens is it just compounds the effect of what's happening. Now, what we do and what we recommend for our clients is just breaking things down and understanding where the actual issue is happening. This is probably one of the most underrated skills that you can develop as a marketer, as a brand owner, as a business owner, and just as a human being in general, but that is problem solving. Now, problem solving, especially when it comes to business, it is a lot easier than problem solving if you're in a relationship, right? If you're running a business, oftentimes, especially with something like an online brand, you're selling a physical good, a physical product or something like that, oftentimes you can find out so much just from looking at the numbers. But the issue is you need to know which numbers to look at, there's so many numbers that you can look at. Your traffic, your click-through rate, your CPMs, your cost per click, all these numbers. But what you need to figure out is where things are broken and what you need to do to fix them. So what we try to do and how we coach our clients as well is just looking at the system. And if you have a down month, what is the reason for that down month? For example, if you have an online brand and you go from $100,000 a month to $70,000 a month, let's say, and nothing has changed in terms of strategy, doing the same things, you haven't decreased spend massively, there's not any sort of seasonal impacts. If nothing else has changed, then what is it going to come down to? It's really going to come down to you've got a traffic problem, meaning you don't have enough traffic to your site, or you have a conversion rate problem. Did something happen with the conversion rate, or did something happen with the traffic? So what we want to start with looking at is, if there was an issue with the conversion rate, why is that? Where did that happen? And then take it a step further. Okay, we've determined our conversion rate went 4% to 2% this month, or 2.5%. That's a huge drop. Where along the buying cycle did that happen? Did it happen when people hit the landing page? Did it happen in certain countries? Did it happen, and the way that we actually look at it is each step of the funnel, right? So homepage, product page, add to cart, and then checkout page. What one of those 4 steps did it happen on? And if there's no consistency there, and we can still identify, yeah, there's a huge issue with our conversion rate, then okay, are there issues in certain countries? You know, sometimes this happens where a pop-up or an app completely screws with one country and is completely fine in another. Is it a certain country we're having this issue with? If it is, how can we fix that? Now, if it's not a conversion rate issue, then we know it's a traffic issue. And if it's a traffic issue, then it boils down to, hey, you know, are we getting the same amount of traffic? If yes, okay, well, if our conversion rate dropped, well, if we're getting the same amount of traffic and our conversion rate hasn't dropped, everything else would be equal, right? But if we're getting the same amount of traffic and our conversion rate has dropped, well, maybe there was something to do with the quality of the traffic. Maybe that changed. Maybe we went into a different market. Maybe we tried a different campaign, and God forbid, someone ran a traffic campaign. Or conversely, it could be, hey, you know what? Our traffic, the cost increased. So actually we weren't getting as much traffic. We were getting significantly less traffic. We actually saw 30% less traffic, which then when you look at it, you're like, okay, well, you know, 30% less traffic, we saw a 30% drop in revenue. That makes sense. Why was that? Then you go down that rabbit hole and fix, okay, well, why was our traffic more expensive? Well, you know, we had this ad that was running for 3 years and, you know, we haven't updated it in a while. It's just been working. But, you know, our cost per click was way higher now and our click-through rate was lower and blah, 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 right? All it comes down to is just figuring out and assessing what numbers impacted the results and then fixing those numbers. It sounds very simple, and it's not easy. That's the thing. The simplicity is knowing and understanding and assessing those numbers and knowing that you have those numbers to rely on in the first place. A lot of businesses don't have that, right? If you launch a brand new offer that has never worked before, so many variables. Could be the cost per click, offer, the creative, the copy. There's a variety of different things. But if you have an offer, if you have a product that has worked for, totally different story. So the moral of this story, and the reason I'm sharing this, is because most business owners, especially early on, don't develop that problem-solving skill. And when something happens, they just kind of falter, or they freak out, or they pull the plug, or they do something. And that's the reason most of these businesses do not succeed. That is one of the biggest reasons. That, coupled with inaction, those are 2 of the biggest reasons that I see brands fail before they even get started, or fail even when they've got a step, right? So I hope this video helps, genuinely. If this did help, or if you have other tactics or things that you do to assess problems and to problem solve in your business, I invite you to share them in the comments below. Entrepreneurship is sometimes a little bit lonely, and it's important to know that other people are there, other people have experienced similar things, other people can help you too, right? And if you don't know how to do these things, ask. If you're not great with numbers, ask. Or like if you're in business, get good with numbers. Right? It's important. Or change that mindset, change what you're telling yourself. Anyways, I could go and talk for hours upon hours upon hours of this, but really, I hope this helps you. And if you do have problems with growth, or if you stagnate, or if you hit a wall in your business, I encourage you to just look at the numbers and assess where things could be better, what changed, and I guarantee it will make it a heck of a lot easier. Anyways, if you did like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you do have an e-com brand and you're struggling with this stuff yourself, please feel free to apply to work with us. We help brands scale largely using retention and email marketing and SMS strategies. So would invite you to apply to work with us if that is of interest to you as well. And have yourselves a great day. See you later.